where you have a shorter time to be together with the professors and instructors, but you're there with your peers. And you take your video work and you say, hi, I'm Carolyn. I had a patient who had a stroke. They are 70 years old. They had aphasia. And I use this technique to work on regaining their speech and language. Here is my pre-test, my assessment that I use to measure this. Here's my technique. And you show an actual video of you providing the clinical work, and then you show your post-test, and then your peers and your instructors evaluate you. And you do that on 3 different techniques in 2 different goal areas. And at the end, you get this big critique of, hey, I think this was great, or hey, could you submit another video that maybe covers this instead, or something like, anyway, those are just too many details. But at the end of that, then you are a fellow. So you are a fellow of the Academy of Neurologic Music Therapy. And fellowship is super, super important because this is kind of elevates our profession in general. You have now shown your work as a clinician. You're able to really speak on it. You're using this transformational design model where you are clearly assessing your clients, using standardized testing to do that, and you're applying all this to your clinical work to achieve results that have already been shown in research to work. And it just, then 5 years you keep your fellowship and then you go do it again. And so this is kind of like this keeps the integrity of the profession so that you're always on top of your game. And every time you go fellow, you get all of the latest research. I mean the latest, like it hasn't even been published yet. You're looking at the fMRI scans and you're seeing exactly what's going on right now. So I'm a third-time fellow. Anyway, so that's what that is. So you don't have to be a neurologic music therapist to understand what we're about to cover, but I will just say this one big statement, because I'm going to give you like this. I try not to have slides that have a lot of words on it, but this slide is going to have a lot of words on it. Only because it kind of has these 3 key points. And if you guys just want to read it, because I don't want to read out loud to you, but I just want to say this one thing. If you're an NMT, you're focusing on functional goals. And by functional goal, I mean that every goal I write, the goal is not to hit the drum 3 times. The goal is to increase range of motion in the right arm, because the functionality of that is this person needs to be able to put their seatbelt on in the car after they've had this injury or disease. So my objectives may say something that would be addressing achieving that goal, but my goal is I would never have a goal to, I could, I guess. If the person wanted to learn how to, they were a musician and they need to play the guitar again, then that is a goal. But it's kind of like functional goal versus rainbows and unicorns. So it's kind of 3 main areas: cognition, speech and language, and sensory motor. And the general idea is, the different elements of music, they go into the brain and they can affect these 3 main areas and to bring about this change that we're desiring. And all the different elements of music, we all know because we're all musicians and we're trained. Meter, rhythm, melody, harmony, dynamics, pitch, timbre. This is why you kind of need to be a competent musician, right? I will say though that I don't find myself, I never refer to myself as a musician. That's kind of sad, but I don't always think I'm that competent. Kind of dig this. You like that? What? No, this is me totally hijacking this truck and making someone take a picture of me in front of it. That's the kind of things I do. Very quickly, to tell you how I became an NMT, I think it's kind of important. So, by the way, my name is Carolyn Dobson. I totally forget these things, these key points. I am in Dallas, Texas. And I have just a private practice, and I work with mostly the older adults. I love loving on our old people. And when I say old people, I don't mean that in a derogatory manner. I truly love working on, we used to call them our elderly, and now we call them seniors, and some people say older adults, but I just love my old people. And I've focused on that primarily for probably the last 11 to 15 years. And how I got really NMT involved was I was given a position in Dallas. I just moved there, and you guys, I've done everything. I've done music therapy assisted childbirth. I've done children and teenagers who've been abused and neglected. I've done hospital medical work, oncology. I've done intellectual disability adults. I've done autism. I've dabbled in it all, and came back home to my old people. And someone gave me the opportunity to take care of 75 dementia residents in a gigantic Jewish senior community place in Dallas. And they said, hey, will you just do all the state paperwork stuff? So that meant I was kind of in the activity director's department. But if you'll do all the state requirements for these 75 people, you can create a music therapy program anywhere in this entire community. And it was independent living, assisted living, long-term care, skilled nursing, and then it had memory care. And this is back when they called them locked units. So these 2 locked units that had 75 people. So I went up to these locked units, and it was like your worst nightmare. The people are just in wheelchairs lining the walls. The walls are white, the floors are gross, the furniture is plastic, and there's just nothing warm and loving about this. And so I went in and just implemented everything I could do. And what I was noticing is I'm building programs kind of around the community. My people who have dementia or Alzheimer's are struggling with some of the same healthcare problems. So they're falling and having an injury, or they're becoming ill, so maybe pneumonia or something, and all of these conditions send you to rehab. And so inside a lot of these communities, I don't know if you know, there's, they call them, it's skilled nursing, a SNF, it's rehab. And they send them to rehab, and Medicare pays for 100 days in rehab, and every rehab wants that. Every rehab wants all 100 of your days, right? Because that's how they get paid. And my dementia residents were lasting 3 days out of 100, because the PTs and the OTs and the SLPs were interacting with them in the same manner they interacted with any other resident or patient that was coming through the rehab. Hey, you need to do your leg exercises, leg extensions for 10 times on the right, leg extensions for 10 times on the left. You need to put this cone over to this cone and this cone over to this cone. You need to lift this bar up 10 times. So just basic, if you think of exercising kind of things. Do you guys work in rehab? Does anybody have that experience? Okay. And so my dementia residents cognitively couldn't understand those commands. So have you ever worked with the cognitively impaired? And so you just say something to them, and it's just not traveling through their brain to get comprehension to bring about the result. So they were just being discharged from services to go live the rest of their life in all the wheelchairs that are lining the wall. And so I'm like, wait a minute, why can't my people come out of rehab and still walk? Or why can't they come out of rehab and not just go sit and kind of sit to die? And so I went into the rehab director and I said, I want to try a little something. Would it be okay? And mind you, I had this privilege because I was an employee of the facility. I said, and here's how I approached it. I had an intern. And I said, my intern really needs to learn about this different area of clinical practice.
Had a music therapy intern?
I had a music therapy intern. And how about you let her co-treat with one of your other therapists, and you let us document it on video, And your therapist will go in and do their work, and then my intern will go in and work with your therapist, and we're gonna get two pictures of it. And, because I don't know if you know this either, and this is no slight against anyone, but PTs are very territorial.
Yes,
And sometimes speech therapists are as well. So no one wants to co-treat with you, no one wants to work with you, and what is a music therapist? And this is ridiculous. So an OT was instructed to work with us. And it was an amazing experience because the OT immediately saw the change we picked one patient, and they immediately saw the change in the patient with the application of music versus just her working with the client by themselves. And this then projected me into, there's this NMT thing out there. I think I need to go get that because I think this is what I need to be doing. I did not have it. I didn't have it. So that's what I did. I went and got NMT training, and then I started the first music therapy position inside a skilled nursing rehab for a gigantic healthcare company in Dallas. So that's how I got here, and it was just because I wanted my people with cognitive impairment to get the same treatment.
Carolyn,
Yes.
what's APVC?
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, APVC. That's my activity professional certification.
Oh,
So it's a national certification as well. So if you work inside of skilled nursing and you have to fill out an MDS paperwork, under the activities department, you need, in the state of Texas, they changed their laws a few years ago, so every state's different, but you had to, my MTVC credential was no longer enough to do that. And so back in 2012, the Activity Professionals Board grandfathered us in. All you had to do was submit all your CEUs and fill out the paperwork and pay the dues. And then I have to keep this up every 2 years.
What does that entail?
Just my continuing education hours. Same thing, and they have domains you need to, so all of my music therapy stuff qualifies. So,
Separate paperwork.
and paperwork, so,
Separate.
yeah, separate paperwork, separate dues, separate everything. I meant for you to not see this, but, in long-term care or working with our older adults, who may have cognitive impairment, or they may only have mild cognitive impairment, or they may have no cognitive impairment that's been diagnosed yet, but they are aging individuals. Are the people in here already working with this population? Or you have a desire to work with this population? You have a desire,
I'm working.
and you're working with, and do we have students in the room? Very good. So, without copying my answers here, if you're already working, or as students, that's fine. What do you think some of the goals are working with our people, our older adults? What kind of goals would you be working on? There. Did I cover them all?
Well, sensory motor.
Yeah, in NMT, we use this language, sensory motor. That's just motor coordination, that's just your movement. So here's my main objective here, and that is in the long-term care industry, and a lot of music therapists work inside senior communities and memory care facilities. There has previously been training in our education kind of encouraged us to come in and do these meaningful moment type interventions. If it's Flag Day, everybody brings flags and we sing patriotic songs and we wave our flags. If it's the first day of spring, we bring flower pictures and everybody sings when it's springtime in the Rockies. And it's the 4th of July, and we brought all of our red, white, and blue props, and we sing all the patriotic songs again. and these kind of theme-based, sessions. And, with the goal being what?
Happy, have a good time.
Have a good time,
Well,
Reminiscence, work together.
reminiscence,
Mood elevation.
yeah. So,
Psychosocial.
so I'm coming at you today to, say, I want my old people to still move. I want them to still transfer themselves from their wheelchair to the toilet. I want them to still be able to button their shirt and help themselves get dressed. I want them to still be able to brush their teeth and not have to have someone help them do every single skill that they're doing. The more they keep walking, the more they keep moving, then the more their brain is getting blood, and then the more they're keeping their dementia away. So, everything I do has this functional goal to it. I'm still using music, and I'm doing all of this in a group setting, so it usually has a secondary benefit of having fun, elevating mood, reminiscing, but that's not my goal. My goal is I want to keep you moving. So I want to have their range of motion. Even if you're in a wheelchair, can you roll yourself in the wheelchair still? I don't want you to be depending on everyone to push you, and neither does your family. Balance is so important. Depending on where someone is living, they start losing their balance, someone puts them in a wheelchair instead of working on their balance. Activities of daily living, that's everything I said. Can they still brush their teeth? This is about dignity. Can they just put their own glasses on their head? Can they put their teeth in their mouth? This is preserving dignity. And I just want them to keep doing it. And they want to keep doing it. They do, I mean, do you want someone to dress you? That's a question. And then the answer is no. I mean, maybe you do. But just people do. Just answer me. I threw in some research, but I gotta tell you, we're not gonna really go over it, okay? It's out there.
Do you work primarily with groups or individuals? Can this be done in groups, I guess is my question.
Yes, good question. So I kind of pride myself on being a group expert. And part of that is because you get more bang for your buck. Someone will pay me to do a group, and then you can see 10 clients versus if I just go in to see one client and get paid for that. But also, I love sitting in a circle so that this resident can see this resident and know that A, there's somebody else like them in this group who has the same deficits or similar strengths, but also if this person feels challenged to do more, then this person may feel challenged to do more. And now we kind of have a nice competition of encouragement going on.
What size group?
I try to limit my groups to 12, which means I usually get 15.
Yeah.
And when someone brings 27, then I actually revisit with the coordinator to bring that back down. There are times where I will arrange a group where my 10 core people are in the middle, that we are working on these functional, let's say sensory motor goals, and then place your lower functioning individuals around the outside of the circle so that they are receiving the musical stimulation. And they have a separate goal out here. But my focus will be these 10 inside. And that's something I coordinate with my coordinators. To just, I just have that clarity going in. Everybody I work with, we have the same philosophy. They have to understand my philosophy of coming in as a music therapist, so that those arrangements are made. So sensory motor. So this is breaking down your NMT idea, that all the elements of music are what help us move. I apologize. That's not in tune. You guys just ignore that. And I'm just only going to use a guitar. You can use a wide variety of instruments because, but just to get the idea, right, when you break down a song or you break down music, you've got rhythm, whether you're in what meter you're in. You've got how loud you're playing it. You've got if you're going to finger pick it. You have whether you're going to now add a song to it. Are you just adding the melody? You know? La 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 la. Or are you adding the words? My sweetest flower that grows. All of those things matter. Okay? Because the rhythm is what's priming your motor cortex to cue movement. And the lyrics then take you over into your speech centers. And so now, do you want that part of your brain working right now? The melody is also activating all of your language. Do you want that, or is your only focus right now to get those legs moving? So these are all the things you want to think about. How much of my guitar I use? How much of your keyboard did you use? Or did you just kind of keep it real? When I'm talking spatial, that's what that means. So if I want you to do a little movement, like tap your toes, feet flat on the floor, everybody uncross your legs. Do I want you to just go tap, 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 tap? Dinah, won't you blow? Dinah, won't you blow? Dinah, won't you blow your horn? Dinah, won't you blow? Dinah, won't you blow? Or do I want it to be bigger? So now you're lifting your knees up. So now it's like knees up, knees up. Someone's in the kitchen with Dinah. Someone's in the kitchen, I know. Someone's in the kitchen with Dinah. Snorting on the open door. Stop. Good. I'm sorry that my 50 minutes is what we have. So, I'm always going to try to do an assessment. I put this on here. You should just take a picture of it. If you want to know some websites to go find standardized assessment tools.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.